All right, I am back with what is probably going to be the first of a number of Outriders videos, given that that is the newest entry in the loot shooter genre. That's mostly what I cover here. Anything relating to loot, though Outriders is not a live service game, which they have made very, very clear. It is entirely based around the concept of loot and leveling and skill trees and everything like that. So it's in my wheelhouse, and obviously I was going to want to pick it up. The demo has just gone live shortly before I'm posting this, and I have already spent a good amount of time with it because I got access to it last night, and the demo is, I want to say maybe like 2 to 3 hours long in total if you do all the side missions. I think once you start doing additional characters, you can skip the prologue, which is like everything that happens before you pick your subclass, so then that would make it even shorter in ults, but it's maybe 2 main missions and then 3 or 4 side missions, and then you can rerun side missions again for different rewards and different drops and things like that, so you can keep playing if you want. But it's capped at, what is it, level 7, and I think you only get 2 skill points, so it's a very big skill tree, so 2 skill points is really not going to get you anything except like 8% more weapon damage and things like that. But you can get a sense of the world, the story, the gunplay, and the loot actually. So we'll start with the loot because that's kind of why we're all here. And I think this is one aspect of it that it's probably the aspect of it that I appreciated the most. Even early on, like, I mean, if you played a looter, you know that the old adage about like the game doesn't start until the end game, and like you will mostly get a lot of just totally garbage drops that are very dull and uninteresting before then. But at least in this demo, it is possible to start getting some pretty interesting things right away. If I already found, even just like a blue level rare submachine gun has the ability to freeze enemies solid, which is a lot of fun and interesting for my pyromancer class because I'm mostly setting things on fire. And then I even found a legendary sniper rifle in a boss chest. I'll be putting some gameplay of that up during this video at some point. You'll see the mission I'm running where I get that drop, and then I do a different mission where I actually use it. I mean, it's very powerful. Obviously, we're in the early game now, so who knows what really powerful means. I know Outriders has a thing where you can dismantle like a low-level legendary and still use its mods to put in a higher-level legendary later. So that's interesting. So if I had like a tier 3 mod in the sniper, that can still be useful, like potentially in the end game. So my drops now actually matter. You start getting not gear sets per se, but you start getting gear pretty soon as mission rewards that give you bonuses to specific skills. It's very Diablo-like. It's kind of like legendary affixes, but it's just on normal gear, like increasing, the damage or decreasing the cooldown of specific fire skills. We get about 4 skills unlocked for this demo. Pyro skills, it's like a wall of fire, it's absorbing health. One thing, you like attach a fire grenade to enemies, and then if they die before that goes away, then they blow up in an AoE, which is pretty cool. And then there's one I don't really understand where I think it's like consuming status effects in a large AoE around you to do damage and heal you. I didn't really mess around with that one too much. That's Pyromancer. Moment-to-moment combat is fun. I have enjoyed it, especially once I figured out how to properly equip armor, which took me probably 2/3 of the demo because I didn't realize each armor set has its own slot. Like Destiny, you can see, I thought it was like Diablo where it was like all in one pile. So I was dying pretty easily for a while there until I figured that out. It is cover based, but it's not like, I wouldn't say it's like Division level cover based where if you leave cover, you're just going to get totally shredded. I would compare it to more something like Mass Effect, kind of a mix of cover, but also using your abilities pretty frequently. They're on cooldowns, similar to Biotic and tech abilities from Mass Effect. I've only played solo. I've played with a group, but I'm sure you can combine all your elemental abilities with your friends for different combos and effects and things. And I think this works well. I think the powers are fun. I think the gunplay is good. And that has probably been the most satisfying aspect of the demo for me. What has not really been that satisfying is everything else besides the loot and combat. And I mean, granted, the loot and combat are probably the most important part of this, given the genre, but I don't like the way this game looks, which sounds weird to say, but I don't think it has really any sort of visual identity to it, and that's something I've kind of seen in the trailers. And like the trailers are positioned a little more to show you a wider range of everything in the game, like all the different zones and different cool armor types and stuff. But in the demo, especially, it's like you're in like the brown rocky terrain zone and like that's it, and it's just a bunch of walls and corridors and canyons and things, and just the world, the characters, they don't, it's all just kind of bland, and like there's no distinct style to it the way we see with other games. The Division runs into this problem a little bit, just because like its characters can be a little boring because everyone's kind of it's the same military geared up person, but the Division does like environments really well. Like its open world is gorgeous and haunting and terrifying. Warframe is a game with a smaller studio that might not have like the best graphics in the world, and yet Warframe has like a really, really distinct visual style. And like you see a set of Warframe armor and you know exactly what game that is. This is just not that really, and at least so far everything is just kind of blurring together. It doesn't really pop out at me. The same is true for the world. The world is weird too because it's not an open world. It's kind of like a lengthy series of corridors, and not only is it that, it's also heavily instanced. So like you'll go to a section of the mini map, and then you'll talk to a person, and then there'll be a door, and then through that door is like the instanced version of your specific side mission that you have to do. So it's not like you're really just running around and exploring much. It's kind of, at least so far in the demo, like very kind of by the numbers, like just, go here, fight these 2 rooms of enemies, kill the boss, like get the chest, get the artifact, whatever, and then teleport back to base, essentially. So it's a lot more linear than I think we're kind of used to in the genre by now, because all these other games, if they are linear, it's more like Diablo with like its linear procedurally dungeons, but I don't think anything here is procedurally generated, so it's not really like that. And like just generally speaking, like you can feel the lower budget here, which it's no fault of People Can Fly, the developer, working under Square Enix, but I think people are inevitably going to compare it to larger games, whether that's the hits like Destiny and Division and Borderlands, or even even the failures like Avengers and Anthem, that still were like huge AAA productions. And like Anthem, for all its faults, was like a gorgeous game and like had a beautiful open world, like brilliant looking armor sets. Like that was probably one of the highlights about it. This Outriders does not have that. You might be able to make up for that if gameplay is fun enough and if loot is good enough and interesting enough. But that is something that jumps out to me right away as kind of a downside and something I'm not super into. I'm also, I can't say I was hooked by the story. The intro prologue section is very disjointed and all over the place. And it's just, it's pretty hard to follow. I know I'd probably read some lore or something, and maybe Bife will do an Outriders video or something, but it's a little generic, and it sounds a little like Anthem, where like your humanity that comes to a planet and there's a giant anomaly storm that is either killing things, and it's the anomaly is how you get your superpowers essentially. And then you go into cryosleep, you wake up 30 years later, and humanity is fighting each other for control over the limited resources on the planet, and then you kind of go from there. And I just, there's only a couple kind of named characters you really talk to in this demo. None of them have really jumped out at me. Your character does appear a lot, you see their face a lot, they have a lot of voice work. I haven't really connected with my own character just through the course of the demo. Maybe that'll change in the longer game. The writing is like, it tries to go the dark humor route sometimes, like pretty morbid jokes, which I'm fine with, but like they have to be funny, and I'm not sure that these are necessarily. So it just, like, the writing hasn't hooked me, the overall kind of world and lore hasn't hooked me, and the visuals haven't hooked me. what has hooked me are the combat and the loot. So that is, I'm certainly going to play the whole campaign. Like, I mean, that was kind of never really in doubt. I just wonder what kind of first impression this will make for people that are on the fence. Because I don't know if it's just going to like totally blow anyone away with like how amazing this demo is. That's kind of even been bad in the past. Where like I think like Anthem had an early preview that seemed like it was creating a lot of potential for that game. Like, oh, like if the full game is this times 100, that'll be great. But that didn't really pan out. It could be the opposite. There could be, I saw them say this is like a 40-hour campaign or something, which seems pretty wild and huge. And then they have a whole endgame setup with like unique maps and stuff to farm. So there's a lot more here. I am not passing final judgment on the game at all. This is only a first impressions piece. This is only after a couple hours. I'm about to hop on PlayStation and try out all the classes, probably all three that I haven't done yet, to see how those play. If the entire game plays any differently with controller. Movement has been a little weird in combat between cover, and you're always having to roll away from grenades and stuff, and it's a little awkward. And like, well, the shooting is good, the movement is maybe less good, but I didn't really pick a movement-based class. There's the one that goes invisible and can like teleport to people and stuff, so maybe that'll be better. But for now, I'm just kind of mixed. There are aspects I like, but then there are also things that jump out at me as really kind of not being impressive. So overall, I'm curious to see what people think. And once you play the demo, let me know in the comments. I will probably do another follow-up video on the demo once I've done all the classes, so we can circle back and see if anything has gotten better or worse in my opinion from even more playtime. And then the game comes out in a month or something, so there'll be more to talk about then. I know I should shout out Anthem, RIP Anthem. It's officially dead. I'll do a video on Anthem and its inevitable demise at some point, maybe tomorrow. But for now, I wanted to do Outriders because it was very imminent and very relevant, unlike Anthem, which is not ever going to be relevant again. So yeah, not great. All right. Thanks for sticking with me. Sorry for the low volume again. My wife is sleeping, and yeah, that's going to be all week. So hopefully it's not. I know I'm not normally super high energy as it is, so you probably don't even notice the difference. But yeah, that's it for now, and I will see you guys next time.